a little while since we checked in with the car doctor, John Paul from AAA Northeast, for an update on all things AAA. Hey, John.
Hey, Joe, how are you?
Well, we're still doing this remotely, so that's, that's about the only thing that hasn't changed.
Well, I see you're in the studio, though, or you appear to be in the studio. It's always hard to tell these days whether people are really there or not.
That's true. No, the staff is back in the studio, has been for some time, not open to the public yet. I'm assuming AAA is the same.
Yeah, we have opened most of our offices in a limited basis. Our travel agents and our insurance people are still home, and if somebody comes in and wants to get car insurance or house insurance or consider booking a trip for the future, we just take their name and number and we call them from home. And the agents all have their equipment all set up, so they're it's pretty seamless. I have to say our boss was. Really ahead of the curve. Back in January, he just said to our IT people, buy every laptop computer you can get your hands on because most of them are coming from China anyway, and chances are the imports are going to go way down. And he said people are going to start to panic buy, and he ended up somehow. I think there's about 3,000 office employees in 5 states, and I think 2,800 of them are working from home.
Wow. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
very visionary of him to just.
Yeah, it really was. I went into our office in Providence about 2 weeks ago. I don't know how many people work in the office, but for some reason I know there's 550 parking spots, and there was about 12 people in the office.
Is
And
that right?
and I, and I talked to two of them, and I said, "How come you're here?" And they're like, "Too much togetherness at home." I just so.
I have to go to work to get
Yeah,
away with my family.
yeah, that seems to be some of it. So, and they just came in, and they're all obviously all spread out because the building's so big. They just
Yeah.
kind of there's one person here and one person there. So, and that's pretty much what I'm hearing from a lot of companies are doing exactly the same thing. We are trying to keep our offices open as much as possible. We are starting to run into some staffing problems a little bit because not everyone either came back to work after our offices were closed or normal sick days, not COVID related, but normal sick days. And, two people get a cold in the office and the office only has 4 people in it. You really can't keep the office open that way.
There's
So,
half your
yeah.
work staff just
Yeah,
is out.
exactly. So we're in a little bit of a challenge, but if people are interested, they can go to the AAA website and look and see which offices are open and closed and what they're doing. Most of them are all doing registry services too. So if
Yeah.
people want to go in and get their license renewed or registration, we have an online appointment system. So you go in, you make your appointment, and take you in and out pretty quick.
Okay. And I'm assuming, roadside assistance is still going strong.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, as you drive to work every day now, you've noticed the roads are getting busier. There's more people on the road. We never stopped doing road service. We were still 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Uh, Unless it's an absolute emergency, we ask people to arrange alternate transportation ahead of time. So if they are broken down by the side of the road, either call a friend or someone to come and pick them up, or Uber or Lyft or something, because we can't socially distance inside a tow truck. So we are looking into putting plexiglass dividers in the truck to try to keep our drivers safe. And we really look at we want to keep our members safe and our employees safe. And if somebody does break down, we'll even arrange the Lyft or Uber call if they have an account and their cell phone starting to wind down or something. We'll say, can we help you make this call to be able to get home? An awful lot of our calls happen from people's driveways, so it's not that much of a deal. But when someone's broken down by the side of the road, now obviously we're not going to leave anybody by the side of the road, so we'll even wait with them until somebody comes to pick them up, or in absolute dire straits, if we know we can get somebody to a Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks or something,
Okay.
bring them there. But yeah,
Yeah.
but we're doing an awful lot of road service calls. We do tens of thousands of road service calls every day or so. And yeah, the numbers are down a little, but they're not down that people are back to hitting the roads. So
Okay, yeah. Obviously, if it's something you can fix right there, flat tire,
Yep.
out of gas, you'll get them back up and running.
Oh, absolutely. That's a really good point. Out of gas, flat tire, um, battery, even if it's, if the battery just failed, they pulled into a rest area and the battery failed, and we can come out, we'll install a battery. Our batteries are pretty competitively priced, and we have dedicated battery trucks we can send out. So, and sometimes it's even just a car won't start. And we've, over the years, have developed little tips and tricks that our drivers share to try to get vehicles on the go, is what we call it. So sometimes it's kind of funny. A fuel pump will just go bad, and the fuel pump's located in the gas tank, and you smack the bottom of the gas tank with a rubber hammer. It's enough to get it to start to work again, and it'll work. It may work for days and days and days. It may work till the next time you shut it off, but either way, you get home. So
Yeah. Oh, wow.
yeah.
That's going
Yeah.
back to the old days when you use a hammer on the starter.
Well, we do that a lot too. We will go out and we'll take a hammer or a metal bar or something. We'll find out where the starter is located and kind of whack on it a little bit, and all of a sudden the car starts up and gets going. The person's on their way. They're happy. We're happy. Everybody stays safe. Same thing. Even our drivers in the morning when they pick up their trucks have been sanitized. They get masks, they get gloves. We're all kind of tablet based now, so their tablet's been sanitized before they put it in their truck. So we just want to keep our members safe and our employees safe, and we're doing everything we can to do that.
Yeah. You mentioned, booking future trips. So let's talk about travel. How has the pandemic impacted it right now?
Well, a lot of people are looking at travel in the future. So 2021, even as far as 2022, some people have already come to us and said, can we book a cruise for 2022? So people are starting to look at those kind of things. Domestic travel is what you would expect it to be. It's pretty quiet still. We are doing one of our travel agents just spent a few days in Disney, and they're doing a video on what it was like to travel during the pandemic and what Disney has done, for instance, to try to keep their visitors safe. One of my coworkers is doing a Facebook Live presentation at some point, and she spent 4 days in Newport and part of Rhode Island and other parts of Rhode Island to try to say, Newport is open, come to visit, and this is what people are trying to do to stay safe. So, I recently traveled. I recently flew out of Boston, and the airports are pretty quiet. The planes are probably somewhere between half and 70% full. But they seem to be doing a good job. All the flight attendants are all masked up with their masks and their gloves. And it's kind of funny. They hand you, a snack in a little bag with a pair of tongs, so they don't touch it. And, it's, so they try to do everyone's trying to do the best they can. Somebody said to me, "Are you nervous about traveling?" And I said, "No more nervous about traveling than I am nervous about going to the supermarket." It's the airplanes and rental cars and all seem to be doing a pretty good job of trying to sterilize and disinfect everything the best they can.
I guess the concern is, sitting in the same vehicle for an extended period of time.
Right. The airlines tell us, and we can only hope to believe them. I got a note from JetBlue that said the air in their planes is cleaner than the air in an operating room.
Okay.
Which either means operating rooms have really dirty air, but they said because of the HEPA filters that are used in the plane, and the air actually comes in, it's sort of forced into the plane from the engines. So it's fresh air that comes in, and it circulates through these really strong filtering systems, these HEPA filter systems, and they claim the filtering systems, filter out 90 some odd percent of, any contaminants, and the air comes both from, overhead, the little thing you turn that's over your head, but also under the seats. So the air is constantly moving. So, it's, if that is all true, it's the air in the plane is probably cleaner than the air in my house. I did take a Lyft ride for about an hour recently, and it was, the driver wore a mask. There was no physical divider. No, there was actually a physical divide. There was sort of I don't want to call it plexiglass. It was sort of a heavy plastic between me and the front seat. There was, and the car smelled like they just sprayed Lysol inside of it. So it's about all you can do, I think. And then if you do travel, when, I was talking to somebody just yesterday that hadn't seen their mother since January. They flew from New Jersey down to Florida. They stayed for 2 weeks in Florida. They felt that they kind of quarantined for a week or so and then visited their mom after that. And then they came home and they're going to, sort of stay home for a couple of weeks at the same time. And I think people are trying to be safe. And this guy said to me, I've done everything I can do. I haven't had a COVID test, but I feel fine. So I think I'm okay. But he said, my wife and I are going to just kind of hang around the house and, get food delivered for a week or so until we make sure that we're clear.
Yeah, that's the real guarantee when you do it, because you can be asymptomatic and still.
Right.
Yeah.
I had a COVID test. There was one event that I had to do back in, it was probably June or July, and I had a COVID test done, and and I felt fine, but you never know. And it came back, a couple of days later, it came back negative, and now they're doing these really quick tests. I had the one that I swear they touched the back of my brain somewhere, but it was it was kind of a drive-through thing. So. And it seemed to worked out fine. And, and maybe maybe after doing some traveling, I'll go have it done again just because.
Sure. Yeah. Stop the spread initiative.
So, Yep. Exactly.
Thanksgiving is right around the corner. Of course, the holidays, are big traditionally travel time. How about this year?
Well, this year we did a survey back in October. Now, since October to now, COVID numbers have gone up, and we assumed travel numbers were going to go down. When we did the survey in October, we saw numbers go down about 10%. So, but still very strong numbers. About 50 million people were going to be traveling over the Thanksgiving holiday, which, Facebook being as weird as it is, I posted something back in, I think, 2012 that said 48 million people were traveling. So, based on kind of historically, the slowest travel time was in 2008 after the, economy crashed then. And then every year it got stronger and stronger and stronger, more people working. Now with less people working and the pandemic, the numbers went down, but they didn't go down as far as kind of we thought they were going to go down. It is, although in the past month, is it going to go down another 10%? It's entirely possible. And it's not surprising if it would.
When you say travel, do you mean driving, flying, railing?
Yeah. Thanksgiving travel is always heavily by car because it's still, driving in your car is a very economical way to get around, especially if you're a family that's going to go visit, grandma's for Thanksgiving. Putting 4 people in a car that gets 25 miles per gallon doesn't get much cheaper than that. The air travel is down quite a bit, but really only less than 5% of Thanksgiving travel is typically air travel related. So it's never been a big number. Where air travel tended to kick in is a little before Thanksgiving with kids coming home from college. A lot of those kids are already home, or they're going to be at college over the Thanksgiving break. You listen to the colleges talk now, and a lot of the kids that are coming home for Thanksgiving may not go back.
Right.
Colleges are, going to go 100% remote learning, either through here or through maybe after January. I know some of my coworkers have kids in college, and they're bringing most of their stuff back with them, anticipating that they may not go back at all this year. So, yeah. So you don't really know. It is kind of going to Logan Airport recently. It felt very much like Logan Airport at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
The lines were short. TSA lines were short. Ticketing lines were short. Most of the restaurants are closed. There's one or two that are still open, but just about everything's closed down. The little news shops are still open, so you can still get a snack, and the newspaper, if people still read those.
What are you hearing from the hotel industry? Because I'm sure it's not good.
Yeah, it's some of the hotels are just kind of struggling along. That's what we're hearing. Some of the hotels, like I said, one of my coworkers in Newport, their hotel business has been pretty good because some people who are local to Rhode Island are tired of being in the house. And they're just, well, we won't go a long ways, but we'll just get in a hotel, go to a hotel somewhere. And the hotels that we've talked to, especially the 4 Diamond and 5 Diamond hotels, a lot of them are renting sort of every other room. So if you do come in, and this is whether it's in Boston or the Berkshires, say it's a small boutique hotel with 50 rooms, they'll rent 25. And then they'll flip those 25 to the empty 25. And so they'll keep them empty for a couple of days. So if there's any possibility of contamination, it just sort of eliminates itself at that point. The CDC says that the virus, even on a stainless steel surface, only lasts a couple of days. So on porous surfaces, a lot less. So, hotels are trying their best. Interesting, over the summertime, and Joe, I go to the Cape a lot. Some of the businesses on the Cape that adapted to COVID with a lot of takeout and outside dining, some of them have told me they've had the best season they ever had. Really? Because the Cape, sort of like Newport with Rhode Island, sort of being a local destination, did pretty well. And the shoulder season, kind of that fallish where the weather can be nice, a lot of places that would normally close for Labor Day stayed open a few more weeks, and they were doing extremely well. They were still really busy. And one person I know owns a little convenience store deli, and he's owned it for about 10 years. He said this summer was the best summer he ever had. Wow. He said because they were sort of set up. They took online orders for food. They took telephone orders for sandwiches and food. People would come in and out pretty quickly. And he said, yeah, we lost sort of the picnic table business out front, but on the other hand, we made a lot of sandwiches and a lot of meatballs, is what they told me. So, yeah.
I think a lot of people with summer places stayed longer. Yep. Their kids were going to school online, so they could really do that from anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people that from New Jersey and New York, when the COVID numbers started to go up in New Jersey and New York, they decided to go to their vacation house and stay a lot longer. What people told me was doing renovations became kind of difficult because while they were there, they wanted to kind of upgrade because it had been a cottage, and all the contractors were busy because a lot of other people were doing the same thing. So, people have been trying to make the best out of it, and just whether it's going to Grandpa's house because that got them out of the city. Somebody I know who works in Manhattan, him and his roommate, they left New York when things started to get bad. They got a Airbnb, I think, in North Carolina for 5 weeks. Then they got an Airbnb in Georgia for 5 weeks, and then they ended up at their parents' house in Florida until their work said, you know what, you don't have to come into the office, but we want you close at home. So they ended up heading back up to New York, but they pretty much decided to try to find the safest places they could go to. Unfortunately, we've seen this in out in Denver and North Dakota. People were kind of carrying COVID like luggage, and where the numbers were really low, the numbers got higher. The positive test numbers got higher because, people were sort of, like you said, asymptomatic, and they were bringing it with them. And, whether you hear about a wedding where 50 people, half the people got, infected afterwards or something like that. People need to be careful and not let their guard down. And, and if they are going out, whether you think a mask is for you or for somebody else, every time I've ever been to an operating room or hospital, the doctors always seem to wear masks, so they have to wear them for some reason. So when I go out in public, I wear a mask. Why not?
Yeah. Are people still buying cars during the pandemic, John?
At the very beginning, no, they weren't, because a lot of the dealerships for sales at least were closed, because when we were in the very first part of this, they weren't. Now they are buying cars. New car sales are down, but not terribly down. Used car sales went through the roof for a while, to the point where used car prices went up a lot for a couple of reasons. People that may only have one car in the household because they take public transportation chose not to take public transportation, or they are working from home, but they kind of need two cars to go do errands. So used cars get very, very popular. The numbers have been, 10 and 20% higher. There was sort of a used car shortage for a while, but now as new car sales are getting better, used cars are, back on the market, so they're getting a little bit better. The other thing is, a lot of college kids that started to do remote learning, their parents said, you know what, I think I got to get you a car because you can't be driving my car because I need to drive my car. So there's some of that. And the same thing, people that I think I mentioned it, but public transportation, people don't want to take public transportation because of fear of the virus, decided to go out and buy a car. So, combinations of a lot of things made this sort of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. How are manufacturers responding? Is this, do you think, going to delay the 2021 model year?
So far, based on what I'm seeing, a little bit, but not a lot. I mean, we used to see an awful lot of the 2021s coming into for instance, the press pool that I work out of, the cars that I road test. By the time July came around, the 2020s were out of the press pool. In August, the 2021s were starting to get in there. September, they were all 2021s at that point. We're not seeing that as much. But we are starting to see some of the 2021s coming to market. Traditionally, September, October was sort of the domestic car, new cars came to the market, and the European imports, Audi, Volkswagen, Mercedes, and BMW, a little bit later in November. Probably everybody moved a little bit later to the year. But no one's quite sure. So the idea of just-in-time manufacturing, where they build kind of the trick is to build one less car than the public wants, so you don't have an excess. Okay. And I think that probably means more than anything right now, because they don't want to end up with a storage lot full of cars that nobody's prepared to buy. And you talk to people, and the economy weighs big into this. Some people who haven't been able to work at home, and they haven't been able to, find another job, they're not in any big rush to go spend money on a car. And the average transaction price on a new car is staggering these days. It's almost $39,000. And the average used car price, I think, is about $18,000. I think I was 45 years old before I spent $18,000 for a car. And the idea of spending almost $40,000 on a new car is just, to me, I wonder how people can afford to do it.
Yeah, I have a friend that just bought a new Ford Ranger, $37,000 by the time all was said and done. Yeah. Yeah,
no, and I mean, the good thing is, used car or new car finance rates are pretty favorable right now. Same thing with mortgage rates. I think the mortgage rates are as low as they've ever been, and so if people are trying to save money, refinancing can help. I know at AAA, I always talk to our financing people, and I never even thought about refinancing a car loan. I always kind of figured, you committed to it, you do what it is. And I said, how much can you really save? And one of our guys always says to me, well, you can probably save $20 a month. I'm like, what's $20 a month? And he goes, well, if you were walking down the street on the first of the month and you saw a $20 bill, would you bend down and pick it up? And I went, yeah, of course I would. He said, how about the second month? Well, of course I would. He said, the third month, wouldn't you be looking forward to it? And I said, yeah. And he said, if you have a couple years left on your loan and you can save $250 a year, he said, is $500 a lot of money? I said, well, compared to trillions, no. But on the other hand, if I can save $500 on my car loan and I can either put that money in the bank or go spend it on something else, why wouldn't I? So,
Something else, a free tank of gas every month.
Exactly. So, so there's those options for people who do have some concerns about, maybe the loan they have now, they can look into refinancing. And again, something I never really thought of, but certainly something that can work for people.
Yeah. Speaking of gas, how has the pandemic impacted energy costs?
Gasoline right now, I think we have across the country, we have about 30 states where you can find gas for under $2 a gallon.
Yep.
Here in Massachusetts, gas didn't change this week. I think it's right around 205 on average. So gasoline prices are pretty favorable compared to a year ago. In fact, I had a little, just realized I had a little note. 207 in Massachusetts right now. Last month at this time, it was 211. Last year at this time, it was 256. So, and again, the economy drives that. People aren't traveling quite as much. And because of that supply and demand, when the supply gets to the point where they can't sell all of the gasoline they make, it tends to bring the price down. So when prices get cheaper. And the other part that had some impacts in it, the storms that we've had over the past, hurricane season shuts down refineries, it shuts down ports. And it doesn't take much for the supply to get a little bit tight, and then it can boost the price up a little bit. But typically over the past couple of months, we've either seen no real change in prices or prices down a penny, two, or here. Then it goes up a couple pennies and down. But I wouldn't be surprised, and I hate to make any kind of prediction, but I wouldn't be surprised to see, somewhere in the next 6 weeks or so, we may even see our prices below $2 a gallon. I mean, if you shop around right now, you can find gas for under $2 a gallon.
Yes, I could think of several places right here. So sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Curious if you saw any impact from the presidential election on either energy or the economy in general.
There was an election?
Breaking news, John.
Yeah. I need to stay up on this kind of thing. Not immediately. I mean, certainly Biden has different energy policies than Trump did. Whether it's clean energy, where Trump was more of a supporter in coal, Biden doesn't seem to be. Whether it's green energy when it comes to cars, California just mandated that in the year 2035, I think that every new vehicle sold will be electric or zero emissions, so hydrogen or electric.
Wow, not that far off.
Yeah, and Quebec too, which I don't know much about Canada other than it's north of me, but I know it gets colder there a lot longer, and I would assume that this will be a really good test for electric vehicles in states where I think I checked the temperature in Canada yesterday and it was 20 degrees. So that will certainly have an impact in electric vehicles. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, there's a climate change initiative that I think 13 or 14 sort of regional states around us have signed on to, everybody but New Hampshire for some reason. But they're all looking at potentially doing, zero emissions type vehicles in the year 2040, or some kind of carbon exchange where you can be a little bit dirtier this area, where you can be cleaner here. And I think, the Biden presidency seems to be more favorable to that, like Obama was with wind and solar. So probably similar, but I know very little about politics, and I'm I prefer to stay out of it. So,
Yes, remains to be seen for sure.
yeah.
Short term, John, are there things that folks should be doing to maintain their vehicles?
Absolutely. A lot of people, I always joke that, MPG is miles per gallon. And, but now it seems to be months per gallon,
Mhm.
because some people just aren't driving. I've been trying to do a little bit of walking in my neighborhood in the morning. Now that it's getting colder, I got lazier. But I try to walk a little bit, and I notice an awful lot of cars that really haven't moved in months and months and months. And if you do have more than one car in your household, it is best to take turns driving the cars. Give them a little bit of exercise. Oil still needs to be changed based on time as well as mileage. So even though you might only be driving a few thousand miles a year, depending on the car, you should change it once or twice a year. Some cars you can get by once a year. My wife's Volkswagen is a once a year 10,000 mile car. My car is every 6 months. So still changing oil is important. Drive your car once a week for half an hour. It's the best thing you can do to your car. It's going to keep the tires round, because tires do get flat spots. As the weather changes, your tires will lose about a pound of air a month anyway. And cold weather, every 10-degree drop in temperature, you lose a pound of air. So maintain the tire pressure. Check the tires themselves to make sure that they're in good condition. Driving the car once a week for 30 minutes helps keep the battery charged. It also kind of knocks any rust off of your brake system that will build up. You let your car sit for a week. The first time you step on your brakes, it sounds like it has no brakes. It's grinding and creaking and making all kinds of noise. Now, that doesn't, that isn't the case if you drive it once in a while, and that's just better for the car. So again, maintenance is a big thing. We did have a fairly hot summer, and summer is where batteries tend to suffer the most damage. It's the summer heat that causes the problems with batteries, and it's the cold weather that puts the stress on a battery. So you may have a battery that performed okay in the summer, but it actually sustained some damage. And the first 10-degree day we get, you're going to go out there and turn the key, and it's just not going to start. So having your battery tested is money well spent. The battery and most of the time it doesn't cost anything. But even the battery in my wife's car, which is 6 years old, it's a 2015, but it was made in 2014. I had the battery tested because I'm like, I don't know how good this battery really is. And it actually tested out better than the rating. So the battery itself tested out fine. So it kind of did, it's holding its own okay. But still, I have had batteries fail in 3 or 4 years, and the average life of a battery in the Northeast is about 5 years old, just a little under 5 years. So if your car is 5 years old and has the original battery, have it tested to see how it's doing. Even if it's 3 or 4 years old, have it tested to see how it's doing. We've found some cars, for some reason, some Honda products, as good as Hondas are, their batteries sometimes just don't last very long. And, somebody with a 2 or 3 year old Honda, the battery's out of warranty and it's just at the end of its life for whatever reason. So, so doing that will help. And again, it's, it is going to get cold. I can't predict anything, but I know the weather's going to get colder. It's probably going to snow. So, making sure the engine coolant is in good shape to protect the engine. Making sure your belts and hoses are all in good condition. Make sure the heater system is working the way it should, not just to keep you comfortable, but to be able to defrost the windshield, get that ice and snow off the windshield when you're driving. And a good set of wiper blades, maybe even consider those winter wiper blades or unibeam blades, kind of an all-weather blade. They're a little bit more money, maybe another $5 per blade, but they work so much better in winter weather that it makes sense to use them. So, all of those kind of things can really help. And again, the best thing you can do for your car once a week, don't just go out and start it, because that's not good for the car, but go out and drive it for 30 minutes. And again, if you have more than one car in the household and you go into the supermarket, take car A. The next time you go into, Walmart or Target, take the other car. Or if the cars just seem to be sitting because you're not going anywhere, just go for a half an hour drive somewhere. Get up to highway speed, maybe, but get the engine warmed up. That's going to be the best thing for it.
That's what it was made for, right? To drive.
That's what it was made for. Cars don't like sitting still, just like, if you sat in a chair all day, as I'm getting older, I creak and groan a lot more. Any car does the same thing. So
To reach out to you, John, for questions, comments?
the easiest way is to go to AAA.com/car doctor, and there's a little Ask the Expert, and you can do that, or you can email me, jpaul@aaanortheast.com, or you can find my newspaper columns here and there in the Boston.com and the Quincy Sun and other places. So you can check it out if you have a question. I try to answer questions at least every day. I usually take Sunday off, but if you have a question, I just answered a question from somebody from Australia.
Wow.
I know very little about Holdens, which was a car they had, but I know it's kind of a Chevy. So based on my Chevy experience, I gave them an answer which seemed to work. So
There you go. International now.
yeah, exactly.
Next, you'll be getting questions from the space station.
I don't think so, but you never know. You never know. Maybe I have a fan.
So appreciate the time, John. Great to see you.
Great to see you, Joe. Thanks for the opportunity, and stay safe, be well, wash your hands.
Yes, wear your mask, stay 6 feet
Exactly.
apart, and
Exactly.
have a safe and happy holiday season.
You too. Thanks.